England, 43 points to 29 winners over the States on the 4th of July. Interesting game. I've not watched it live. I've just got up to watch it this morning here in New Zealand without knowing the result, fortunately. Bit of game of two halves. I would have watched it live ordinarily, but I was a bit under weather, so I gave it a miss live and decided my sleep was more important. But as I said, thankfully I stayed off social media and was able to see the game. Game of two halves, like I mentioned, both sides kind of a wee bit disrupted in their build-up. England without their British and Irish Lions, without their rested senior players, so it was a bunch of new caps for this one. Good to see a crowd back at Twickenham. That was all very pleasing. Disruptive for the States also being without some of their senior players and a very limited build-up time for them. They only got into the country, I think, about a week ago. So, yeah, on paper it could have been one that was horrendous, but I think of all the games this weekend, you look at the likes of, Canada against Wales, New Zealand against Tonga, which finished with pretty bad-looking score lines. This one, in the scheme of things, is actually pretty good. And the States even got the first points on the board. They got a penalty, a long-distance one from Cardi. Showed some pretty cool nerves to slot that one over from about halfway. 3 points to nil, but from the restart, England pounced. Mallins pinched a ball out of the air from the restart. Teo was way too casual, trying to wait for it to just come into his arms. Mallins gives it to Underhill, who pops over for the try. Marcus Smith misses the conversion 5-3 early. That's a good start for England, barring the first penalty, which had come from a scrum. But unfortunately, Mallins gets injured because as he's passing the ball to Underhill, he gets pushed into touch. And his injury with a 6-2 split means Umaga has to come on. And that means Lawrence has to go out onto the wing, which is, again, a wee bit unfortunate. I thought Kati, the fly half for America, was doing pretty good because they were trying to put him under a heap of pressure. If you noticed that England were running, I think Hayes ran down his channel, Genge ran down his channel, Czech ran down his channel, so they were trying to unsettle him early anyway, but he was doing the simple things right. He was grabbing the guys by the ankles and hanging on for dear life as they toppled over. So, good on him for that. I haven't actually checked his final tackling stats, but we'll go over the stats and some of the other key events as well. Lawrence got a try on 14 minutes as a 2-on-1. Teo was involved again. This time he did manage to get his hands on something, but it was only Lawrence's shorts as he was beaten. He tried to grab on for dear life, and Lawrence just pulled him over by his britches. So his bare backside got exposed to everybody who was watching, which will be all over social media. I'm sure it happened to Anton Leonard-Brown for the All Blacks last year. 12 points to 3. Aerial collision from the restart between Stewart and Hadding, but Hadding's managed to bat it back even if he did clatter into Stewart, so there's kind of nothing doing from that one. One that if he hadn't got the ball could have been a wee bit of trouble for him, but fortunately he did get the ball, so that conversation ends there. With that being said, Thokonasinga gets his first of 2 tries on 23 minutes. Randall trying to keep the pace into the game. He takes a tap when they've got advantage. He gets it to Stewart, who's all right after being clattered in that aerial collision earlier. He grubbers it through for Thokonasinga, who's got miles of time. Pretty easy try for them. 19 points to 3, straightforward. Braki makes a mistake later on. He's playing fullback. He shouldn't have been playing fullback. He was a late positional shift. He's usually a winger or maybe a midfielder. He catches the ball out before the ball itself had crossed the plane of touch. So he gifts England free territory, but that being said, Dolan gets him out of trouble later because he manages to turn England over. But Thokonasinga got another try through a huge gap on the half-hour mark. Teo was involved again somehow for the Americans on defence, but he's covering like 3 guys, so it's more than just him. Randall has his... Was it Randall or Smith? Randall has his pick of guys who he can choose, and he just picks Thokonasinga. Teo kind of starts to drift forward. Or maybe it was Smith. Smith has got miles of options. His eyes tell him that he could be going wide, so Teo starts to drift. He just pops it to Thokonasinga, who just goes through a huge gap. And at 26-3, after, half an hour, it's starting to look like it's going to be another hiding. The States might not even get on the scoreboard. There was a head clash later between Braki and Lawrence. Lawrence had to go off. He fails his HIA, so there's both of your backs on for England. That's one of the pitfalls, potentially, of the 6-2 split. So Robson has to go on the wing. England's scrum starts to dominate. They do get an on-field no try after a sustained period of pressure, but there's nothing doing before half-time, so it goes into half-time with the scoreline still 26-3. Possession and territory are actually pretty even, but all the points, for the most part, have been going England's way. Second half, though, the States get the first try through Fa'ana Schultz. The Lucy, they got a maul, and their maul was relatively successful in this game. The maul's kind of being pushed into touch by the English pack, but he manages to peel off and dive over for that one, so well taken. They missed the conversion 26-8. 49 minutes, England's line-out gets picked off by the Americans, so it's a bit of a black mark seemingly, but Blamire, the hooker, makes up for it by immediately charging down the scrum half for the States to Haas, and they go for that try. England missed that conversion again. The goal-kicking finishes at like 57%. It's not ideal for Marcus Smith, who could have used, and we know he can kick better goals than that, so yeah, not ideal, but it's 31 points to 8. That being said, on 57 minutes, the US got their own charge down. This time it was Dolan. No protection for Harry Randall at that one. You would have thought there's a guard on his side, maybe. But nobody. And you could see, they showed on the replay, Dolan has only got eyes for Randall. And he's like a kid waiting to open his presents at Christmas. You know what he's going to do. But as Randall goes for the box kick, Dolan's all over him, manages to regather and gets a try. 31 points to 15. Stewart had one where he looked to have maybe grounded a loose ball, but he was ruled to have knocked it on. It was close. So England did have a few kind of disallowed tries in this one. Potentially the scoreboard could have been higher, but, not to be. 62 minutes, the US are under a heap of pressure, but they're able to hold out. That is until 65 minutes. Smith gets his try of the game. This one's Randall taking a wee snipe, and he gets it to Smith from the ground, pops it up, and Smith goes over pretty easily. Again, missed conversion, so 36-15. Randall makes up maybe for his charge down earlier by getting a try of his own. He dummies and sells it to bloody everybody. Well, it was a brutal dummy. It's going to make everyone feel like dummies after that one. He straightened, ran a really good line, sidestepped Crusade the winger, and went over for a good try. So 43-15. 43-15 after what? 69 minutes. Yeah, it's looking kind of more peachy at that point. But the States, not to be denied, in the final 10 minutes, they get 2 tries. The first one from Hermages, he breaks off a 5-meter maul and just kind of powers over. Showed some pretty kind of brute strength on that one, so 43-22. Ludlam did get one seemingly from the USO being turned over in their own 22. But that one they ruled that Teo, again, it's always Teo, was tackled in the air just. So I think it was Singer. He tackled Teo just before his feet hit the ground, so it was actually a penalty at England. 77 minutes, USA got the final points of the game. It was Crusade on the left wing. His pass was almost intercepted by Robson, but Robson ended up knocking it backwards, so the ball ends up with Dyer, who goes over, and it's 43-29 at the death. So, yeah, it looks not too bad for America. Only 14 points behind England. I know England, as I said, are without their biggest guns, but the States were without like McGinty and Lamositele and Lasike, so they also had disrupted prep. Eddie Jones basically mentioned in the post-match that he's happy with the first half, but not the second, which is probably a fair assessment of the game. The States guys should be very, very proud of themselves for able to push England for the 80 minutes. Because often when you see Tier 2 sides, it's the final 20 that they start to kind of fall apart. The fitness levels are usually a difference, but maybe this speaks volumes for... And Gary Gold did mention about the MLR, about how it is prepping these guys for stepping up to the international level. And honestly, I've said it before, I'll say it again, there's nothing that preps a guy to play better rugby than being fully employed as a rugby player. If you're a part-timer, you're never going to reach that level, but if it's your full-time job, you're going to see improvements. The stats, England finished with a tackling percentage of 82%, which they won't be that happy with. England did outdo America, though, who were at 77%. But England had to make more tackles. Clean breaks finishes 13-7, so England was sharper in that department. Turnovers conceded 18 by America, 13 by England, so neither side's going to be happy with that. But Gary Gold did say he expected some of those kind of technical errors because they haven't been together that long. It's the first game they've played together since the Rugby World Cup, so it's a long time. And yeah, some of those knock-ons, unforced errors, just passes that were a bit low or a bit high, and it was just making the handling a bit tough for them. That kind of stuff they would surely iron out as they play together a bit more. Underhill, unsurprisingly, finishes the top tackler with 14 out of 15. The next best tackler for either side is 10. 10 was Ben Curry for England, and 10 was the top tackling. That was Peterson, the lock for America as well. Thokanasiga finishes with 3 clean breaks, 2 defenders beaten, 94 run meters, and 2 tries. It's a pretty good shift. Teo finishes with 98 run meters, believe it or not, the American right winger as well. As I mentioned, the goal kicking 57% for England is not that great. Umaga misses 4 tackles, but again, probably not the debut he had in his mind. Coming on at the minute he did, in the position he did, but yeah, that's the one. 43 points to 29. Entertaining game. I'm pretty happy with it. I think the States can certainly take some positives. England will maybe be a wee bit criticised for that one, but man, they scored 43 points. They blooded, how many guys was it, like 12? So yeah, we need to kind of, I guess, take that for what it is. And although England were kind of together a bit longer, they had the disruption of not having access to the semi-finalist guys from the Premiership until a certain point, and then they didn't have access to Exeter or Harlequins guys either until they'd finished their domestic season. So yeah, it is what it is. 43 points to 29. Between the States and Canada, you'd say the States are looking like the better of the two sides at the moment. But yeah, we've still got more games to go. You guys let me know your thoughts on this one. How did you think England went? Are you kind of happy with what you've seen from some of this young talent? Do you think these guys will get sharper the more they play together? Anybody who looked particularly out of place? Obviously, the 6-2 split will be a bit of a talking point. Will they revert to a more traditional 5-3 in future, or is it just unlucky that they had 2 guys go off in the first half from the backs? But anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts. I'm off to go watch Romania and Argentina because I haven't finished that game yet. Busy times. You guys take care. I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.